Hi, everybody. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, there are a few people on call today. I can see Mbuso, Nomfundo, Kangi, Tahia. Hope I'm saying your name correctly. If you guys can hear me, just comment something in the chat box, please. Okay, I see a thumbs up. Cool. I'm just gonna give it another minute or two. Started a bit early today, so I'm just gonna give everyone a chance to join in for the people who want to join in. And then we'll get started in about a minute. Okay, quite a few people on here. Hey guys. Could you guys please mute on your side so we can have better quality of audio? I'm just gonna go when you get on the call.
Second row. Check my sleep love.
Okay. Hi guys, hope everybody's okay. Hope everybody is well. It's good to see people joining on the call again this week. I think it's been 2 weeks since we had the last call, so this is actually great to see people are still excited to be on these calls and we can still have conversations about any and everything. If you do have any questions, just some ground rules, maybe not rules, but just some things to note before we start. If you have any question, please do post it in the chat pod and I'll be able to monitor from there.
Can't you mute this person?
Also, please just mute yourself, guys, if you are joining on the call, just so we can have better quality audio and ensure that everybody is able to hear.
When I was 24 years.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to get started firstly. On the first 15 minutes of the call, the last call we had was about an hour long, and we'll see how this one will go. But yeah, let's just take it from there. So the first thing I really just want to discuss before we get into the rest of the call today is basically your CV stuff and what your CV could potentially look like as a trainee. I know a lot of people or a lot of trainees have the issue that I don't have a lot of work experience. So what do I put down on my CV? What should my CV be looking like when I'm looking for a job? And I just want to say that you can build your CV up all the way from first year up until third year. The assumption here is that you will only be looking to use your CV in your third year of articles. That's why you start looking for potential employment. So at that point, you would have built up 3 years worth of experience in articles, and you can update your CV with every year, with each year of your article training. I've seen a question here that there's somebody who has an interview tomorrow and they're struggling with the tell me about yourself question. I think we all at some point struggle with that question, but let me not, I will answer that question as time goes, but let me start with the CV stuff today. So there are certain things that we do in our articles, and I'm going to speak purely for people in audit here. Your audit process has certain sections that are done in first year, certain sections that are done in second and third year, just like that. And in those sections, that is where you are sort of building your experience and building the stuff that you eventually put in your CV. So I'm just gonna pull up a snippet of an example CV that I do have here for you guys. And we just are literally going to talk through that snippet in a moment. So here is just a snippet of a part of my CV, and I will take you guys through the rest of the thing. The rest of it is not really important right now, but I'm just being wary of the time that we have on the call. So let me just start with the important stuff. So this is a snippet of my employment history, and on my CV, I have all the other basic things, you know, my name, my description, you know, all of those important things, education, history, and whatnot. But on the snippet is where I really want us to focus on today, because a lot of us do a lot of these things during our articles, but we don't know how to translate that onto a CV as work experience, or sort of as that should inform your potential employer what exactly you have been doing in the past 3 years. So what I've highlighted here is basically the main responsibilities. And for me, I just honestly just picked things that were important for me based on the role that I was applying for. So it shows you here that this is my employment history, and I've been employed at this particular firm from Jan 19 until that present moment, which was at the time I was using this CV. So this CV is not updated for what I'm experiencing now. This is up until third year, and I think this is where a lot of people would be at, right? So the first thing that I want to maybe point out is the stuff highlighted in yellow. And these are the things that I did throughout my 3 years of articles, or maybe let me say from second year, some from second year until third year, which was the managing of a team. If you think about it, if you're in third year and you're applying for a job, you're not applying for a junior role, right? You're applying for something in, I don't know, assistant manager or manager level or supervisor level. So your potential employer needs to know that you're able to manage a team, right? So that for me was important to put in there, that I had managed this amount of people in a team, and in managing that, this is what I did. I looked at the scoping, the strategy, the execution, and the completion of the sections, right, to meet deadlines. The second thing is designing audit procedures. I think everybody from first year designs audit procedures, and that is something we take so lightly. Like we don't even think about it when you're doing it in first year. Like you've had to design procedures for payroll. You've had to design procedures for investment property, for revenue testing, for all of these sections that you've done. The procedures that you were doing there was basically you designing procedures to test the risk that was associated with that section. So that's how you would potentially translate that experience onto your CV for somebody to see, okay, this person can actually come up with solutions to a certain problem, or come up with a solution to address a certain risk. And that's basically what they want. Another important thing, moving on to like an assistant manager role, is being able to delegate and being able to split work between the team. How do you know who should do what, and how much of work is a lot for one person to do? That is also a skill that you would have learned in your articles from second year, maybe third year going up. You would have had an opportunity to do a work allocation. You've allocated work to the junior team members. You've said, okay, you will do the payroll section, you will do the physical verification of assets. On what basis were you allocating that work? You see that this person has the ability to do this type of work, or they have a bit more experience in a certain section, so they were more appropriate to do it. That is also a skill that you can then put on there to say, I've allocated tasks to team members based on their experience and the required skill. Another thing, and this is a big thing, and I think this we do from first year, from the moment you land into an audit role, you start doing these client meetings. Client meetings is something we all start in first year to do. Whenever you have update calls with the client, this is where you tell the client, okay, this is where we are, these are the issues that we're having, these are the findings that we've had on the audit. And that is one of those skills that must translate and must be clear in your CV, because again, if you're moving into an assistant manager role, they need to see that you are able to speak to the client and address the issues that you find on the audit. Things like your misstatements, things like your audit reports, you're able to draft those things. And so those are basically some of the things. And obviously reviewing financial statements, we all do this. I think for me personally, even from first year, I did review financial statements. So this would come up in a situation where you're now at the end of the audit and the managers say, okay, guys, here are the financials. We need to take this up to your sections. So if I was in first year and I did the PPE section, I will then take up the PPE note in the financials. That is reviewing the financial statements to make sure they comply with the work that we did. And then moving on to a more senior role, you would have been mentoring your junior staff, and you would have been ensuring that, you know, they get their work done, and you coach and you teach when you need to teach. I think this is one of the most important skills, especially if you're looking at a more senior role that you want to go into. So this is definitely something more that you would definitely would have to let it come across your potential employer to say, look, I can mentor, I can coach, I can teach, because that is what the role of a manager is. So there's a whole lot of more examples really, but I just wanted to point out the way your experience and articles can come through in your CV. Things like updating your revenue processes, your controls, and all of those tests you do to test controls, that is actually a skill. And if you're looking to move into a more senior role, you need to show that, okay, I can do this thing and I can help somebody learn how to do it too, because that's basically how it is. So that's basically that. I'm not seeing the chat pod right now because I'm sharing my screen. I'm not sure if there are any questions. No, not yet. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna go into the rest of the CV. So my CV was actually, this is the very simple, a very simple format of it. I've had a lot more complicated one, but I've since had to just make it as simple as it can be. You'd obviously start with all your personal information and all of that. You bring in your qualifications. At that point, I was still eligible to register. And then you bring in your education, all the way from your high school if you want to. Which is what I've included. I've had my tertiary education in there, and I've had a little bit of my achievements. So that's basically what you can put up in there and put in your employment history. I also do just want to point out it's important to include these detail in your CV, in my opinion. Some of the client experiences that you've had. So I've been on these clients during my articles, and this is where I got my experience from. So I've had a bit of manufacturing, I've had a bit of real estate. This was not really like a real estate investment company. It was just a subsidiary that housed the group's property, and I had to bring it in there because I wanted my CV to have a bit of real estate because that was my ultimate goal. So I had to bring this in separately and show that I've worked on a company that holds properties, and this is what I did. And then I had a bit of telecommunications and some bit of retail there. I think a lot of us would be more familiar with Famous Brands and Telcom, and your Famous Brands housing your Steers, your Debonairs, your Fisherways. That's a whole lot other conversation there. And then just bring in a bit of your competencies, like your attributes, your skills, if you want to call them that, some literacy, and maybe some of your interest stuff. So that's basically it, guys. It's really not complicated, but it's very, very important that you have the right information in your CV, because at the end of the day, your employer is really interested in seeing what you have been up to in the past 3 years. Another template that maybe I should just share if somebody wants to do it differently is the same thing I had in the last template is basically what I have here. But the way I've done it here is I've split this between being a trainee accountant, which was your first year, being a senior one in your second year, and being a senior accountant in your third year. And you can still split your experience in the same manner and in the same way to say, in my first year, this is basically what I did, and would expect this to be very basic because you're in your first year, but would expect to see a lot more seniority as you go up, and a lot more responsibility and a lot more complex things, as you go up. So you can decide to use this template to just show a little bit of your experience based on, or split between, your first, second, and third year. But essentially everything in this detail is exactly the same thing as I showed you in the last detail. Okay. So let's go back to the chat and let's look at some of your questions. If you do have questions, again, please do post them in the chat box. I am taking all the questions just now. So the first thing is, this person says they have an interview tomorrow. Congratulations, by the way. And they're struggling with the tell me about yourself question and why you're the best fit for the company. So the tell me about yourself question, that is a bit of a tricky one. But really, I think a lot of us struggle with this question because we don't know what to say. And maybe that comes from us not very sure of who we are in that context, right? Like what parts of you exactly are you supposed to share? So for me personally, I would advise that you share stuff about yourself. Yes, obviously you want to bring in your authentic self, right? But there are contexts, there are certain spaces that require to know certain parts about yourself. If you are in a social gathering with friends and you're meeting new people there and like, oh, tell me about yourself. You would tell people your social aspect, the more relaxed. You don't go there and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm skilled in this and this and that. The context in which you're being asked that question is a very different one to an interview. So in an interview, I would pull up my academic history. I studied at the University of Pretoria. This is what I did, and this is how long it took me. After that, I did my articles here and there, and I've developed a keen interest in real estate. And so this is what I do in my spare time in relation to real estate. And I really like it. This is what I'm really skilled at. I think I want to take my career in this direction because of 1, 2, and 3. And that's basically how you go on about it. You can still bring snippets of, like yourself, obviously, like, okay, I enjoy doing this in my spare time. I like YouTubing, if you like YouTubing, or you like reading, or you take up a sport. I think it's important to bring in little bits of your authentic self because you want to come across as a well-rounded person. You don't just want to be this person who has studied books and been an A student, and there's nothing else to you socially, or how do you give back to the community? A lot of companies are moving towards these ESG goals. How are you aligning to those? How are you giving back, or how are you helping the next generation? Stuff like that. So it's not really like a blanket wide answer that you can offer, but I think it really depends on the context that you're being asked. And in the context of an interview, I would definitely pull back to my study experiences. I would put back to my articles experiences. And now at this point that I'm at now, I would definitely go and say, look, after articles, this is what I did, and this is why I wanted to do this. And then bring in a bit of your personal stuff, your YouTubing if you're a YouTuber, your sports event, your sporting interests if you're into sports. And you never know, like there might be something about you that you have in common with your interviewer, which might actually make this whole interview thing a lot more better and a lot more enjoyable, and it feels like a normal conversation. And then the second part of the question was, why are you the best fit for the company? And this is a very difficult one. Because the first thing is, unless you've thoroughly done research about that company, which is what a lot of us really don't do, to be honest, you need to really know that company well for you to know what kind of people they're looking for. But there are certain things that you can know about a company based on the people that work there. That's why for me it's very important to speak to the people who work for that company already and try to find out what kind of environment does that company have. What's the culture, what's the perception on things like taking leave, what's the perception on children, because you'll be surprised to know that some companies look down on women because women have families, women have kids. Some companies look down on me having to ask for leave to take my kid to a camp or something like that. So it's important to speak to people who work there and to find out what kind of environment is that company, basically, in terms of work, in terms of personal, in terms of mental health, in terms of work-life balance. So when now you're asked with this question, why you think you're the best fit, you can look at certain things like the company's values. What do they value as a company? Does that align to your values personally? For me, an example, if I can give you, is that the company I work for now really values authenticity. So they say in their values that they want us to come to work as our authentic self. And coming to work, the one way that this translates to me is, I've never really been like a formal dresser. Like I've never really been into the whole corporate look, heels and stuff. I've always been a sneaker girl, and I enjoy wearing sneakers. And they're like, come as your authentic self, because to them, it's not the heels that matter. It's the fact that I am confident to wake up in the morning and go to work in what makes me feel comfortable. So I'm 100% effective and efficient in my work. So that for me aligned with who I am. It aligned with my personal values and my personal goals. So those are some of the things that you can bring up in that question. What do they value that you value too, that makes you think you and the company are sort of aligned, right? Okay. The recording, I am recording this week. Yes, I am recording. And I will let you guys know where you can find the recording. I'm still working on a platform to put all the recordings so that every person at any time can have access to any recording that we do. But until that platform is up and ready, I'm still deciding if I should have them on the channel, but I'm not sure yet. But as soon as I'm finalized and I have a platform, I'll let you guys know. If there is an alternate solution in the meantime, I will also announce this on my Instagram. So if you are not following me already, please do make sure you follow me to get updates for this. Cool. The next question is, in the case of someone who's still in second year and will be compiling a CV next year, what would you advise in terms of things to do while in second year to set yourself apart from other candidates in CV wise? Okay, so yeah, this is a bit difficult, but it's not impossible. So obviously, if you're in second year, right, and you'll be going into third year next year and you'll start applying for jobs, guys, there's a lot of trainees. There's a lot of trainees in South Africa, just South Africa alone. Each firm has, especially the big fours, have a lot of trainees that will be looking for jobs. And it's unfortunate that there can only be so many jobs, you know, in the market, especially in the current economic times. So definitely having something to set yourself apart with is a definite step in the right direction. So I would say look into your personal space, right? So yes, in your work you will have certain experiences that are building you up into becoming a CA, but within your personal space, what are you interested in? What can you do personally that will set you apart from the next person, right? And that is basically what you decide to do in your free time. So I mean, I'm not saying now go on and have a long list of, okay, maybe I can take up a course in coding if you're not interested in coding. Like, you need to do stuff that interests you, but also stuff that will set you apart. So you can take up a course in coding if coding is what you're interested in and you feel like after your third year, you'll probably want to move into the tech space. That is also possible even if you're coming from an audit space, because you can still be an FM in it for a tech company. You can still be a CFO for a tech company. And that is why CAs are so versatile, right? But if you are setting yourself apart, then maybe taking up a tech course of some sort would set you apart and show that actually this person is really interested in tech, that in their spare time they are learning how to code. So it's certain things like that. I have a friend who, after articles, he left and worked for an investment firm as an investment analyst. And he said to me, they asked me, so why investment analyst? Because you have no prior background in this. And it's like, look, in my spare time, I actually like a lot of I do a lot of valuations, I do a lot of projections. I want to see what my investments will perform like in the next 10 to 20 years. And that I find that interesting for me. And that resonated with what he was going to do. Because basically in an investment analyst role, you're taking people's money and you're putting it into some sort of market for it to grow, right? And if he's already interested in doing that in his personal capacity, then it aligns with that role. So I think that's some of the things you can look at. It also depends on the kind of role you want to move in. Like I said, if you want to move into tech, maybe take up a tech course, maybe do something in programming, maybe do something in software design or something that will set you apart. Because articles, experience, yes, it's experience towards your CA, but 2,000 other people have the same experience. 3,000 other people in South Africa are gunning for the same job you're gunning. But what makes you different, I think for me, is going to be very big, coming from your personal interests and coming from the things that you do in your spare time. And you can still put those things on your CV, so it will come and translate very well to your potential employer. Okay, the next question is, some of us have never got a chance to be AIC. So do you know how we can demonstrate in the CV that we can lead the engagement? This is, yeah, I think that I'm actually hearing this for the first time. I don't know if this person is in one of the big four or not, but I know that in the big four, everyone at some point has a chance to become AIC. But even if you're not like named AIC, by virtue of you being a third year, you are leading a team, you are coaching your juniors, you are coaching your second year and your first year, you are sort of delegating some of the sections to them. And even if the manager comes and says, okay, your first year must do, if your manager comes and does the whole work allocation themselves, you are still able to sort of show that you have been able to lead people, and in your role as a third year, you were able to coach, you were able to sort out issues with these people in that manner. So I think that can still come through on your CV to demonstrate that you're able to lead and you're able to coach. Okay. Do you do vacation work during your studies? Well, for me, I did once, and I did it with BDO South Africa. I was still in matric. So during my varsity days, I didn't do any VAC work because I was already signed with KPMG. And for me, it wasn't a thing back then, or let me say I wasn't as informed as I am now about the benefits of doing VAC work. So it really didn't matter for me at that time. But had I known what I now know, I think I would have done it. But yeah. Okay, next question. Just wanted to ask if it's advisable to change training firms during your articles from being a trainee in retail to audit or even banking. So, I mean, you can change your training at any time. And if you feel like that one firm that you at is not giving you the experience that you want, you can definitely change and go to another firm. The only thing that will happen is that SAICA will then, what's the word? They'll extend your training contract. So from being a 3-year contract, they might extend it by 6 months. I think that was the rule the last time I checked, to extend it for 6 months, and then you can start at the new firm that you want to go to. So it's definitely possible. Did you only include the experience you got from your articles? And if you've worked, let's say as a student assistant in uni, do you put those type of work in your CV? So I hadn't worked, right? Prior to me being a trainee, I didn't have any work experience, but yes, you can put that work experience in your CV if you want. I don't think it's any harm. I think actually, in fact, it's a good thing to show that you've worked in other areas other than audit. If you do have that experience, this is what you did. And if that, it will even be better if that aligns with what you want to do in your next role, type of thing. Cool. When do you recommend we start sending out our CVs for jobs during third year? I would recommend after your articles, definitely after your APC. I'm saying articles. After your APC. So when your APC comes back, whatever result you get, okay, and I'm not saying wait until you've passed. I'm just saying wait until the APC results are out, because after the APC results are out, that's where a lot of companies start hiring. A lot of companies start looking for, okay, who's in the market, who's obviously they're looking for people who are now ready to qualify, and they're looking to take up those people as soon as possible. So definitely after the APC results are out, I think that's where a lot of opportunities start popping up. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you're able to get feedback. And the more time you have to think about it, the more time you can compare these jobs and compare the packages and compare whatever it is that your criteria is. I've already discussed like the criteria for a job in one of my videos, so you guys can watch that if you're wondering. But it's good to have that criteria so you know if a job is for you or it does not align with what you want. Did you use career coach for your CV and preparation for interview? So no, I have not used a career coach for my CV. I did my CV myself. I didn't use a career coach or anything. And preparation for an interview, also I didn't use a career coach, but I got my job through a recruiter. So the recruiter also, the person helping you from the recruitment agency also sort of prepares you for the interview. So yeah, I use that because they already know what the people interviewing you are looking for. So they are able to help you with that. So if you do get a recruitment agency, they will be able to help you with that. How do you positively discuss a question like, what are your development areas, which are asked by the interviewers? So I've said in one of my videos that questions like what your weaknesses and development areas are really aimed at making sure that you are aware of yourself and you're aware of your weaknesses. But you can discuss things like, oh, don't use the I'm a perfectionist thing. I think it's a bit cliche. I think everyone has used it, but come up like, know yourself enough to know, like what you're weak in. So if for instance, you're somebody who is, I don't know, rather shy, maybe to talk to the client, or you're like scared to talk to the client and discuss potential mistakes with them, that could be a development point, but you need to discuss it in such a way that at the end of your discussion, it shows sort of a positive trajectory of how you've tried to address this weakness. So say, look, over the course of my articles, I've been able to speak to the client and discuss all of these things, and we've sorted out, and I'm getting better with every audit that I go to. I am getting better in this thing. So that's sort of how I would go on about it. Okay, still got a few more questions, and I think we're running a little bit out of time. The next one is, when one is interested in doing the articles in the UK, what would you say are the main qualities to the company usually look for? Also, if you're informed, what does the process look like, more especially if you do not hold an ancestral visa that most usually say is required? So articles in the UK, and I think maybe let's have a different call on this one, because it's quite a bit of a process to do articles here. I do know one or two people who are doing their articles here in the UK. So maybe let's have a different call on this one. Can I just park it for now? And then we'll have a different call on this one, just specifically to address articles in the UK. Okay, do you need to know what you want to specialize in audit? Because I'm not sure. I remember correctly, but I heard that in Deloitte, you need to choose whether you want to work in financial. Yeah, so with every company, you would have to choose whether you want to work in financial services or you want to work in industry or consumer markets, whatever the company's other industry is called. So it's not really like a specialization, but because it's still very broad. Financial services is broad. Hey, there's mergers and acquisitions, there's investments, there's valuations, there's insurance, there's a whole lot of things. So it's not really specialization, it's just a department within an audit firm that you would like to work with. But yeah, you can decide which department you want to go. Sometimes you get your preference, sometimes you don't. It really just depends on the company. Which companies do you know hires qualified accountants both in South Africa and the UK? I don't know any company specifically, but I would recommend for you to look up on LinkedIn. There are recruiters. I know Blue Recruiting does do accountant jobs in the UK, so not in audit, but you could get a job through a recruiter if that's what you want. So maybe look on LinkedIn. Did you only include the experience you got from your work, from your articles? And if, let's say you worked as a student assistant, I think I've answered this one. What's the best recruitment agencies? I don't know about best, but I do know that Blue Recruiting is one of them. Blue Recruiting is top of my mind because I use them. But yeah, I think, yes, we can do more webinars regarding moving abroad after articles. Definitely, that's what this is about. But yeah, I think the next webinar, let's discuss doing articles in the UK. So if you guys are interested in that, the next webinar, that's what we're going to discuss. I think I'm going to close this here. We're also running out of time. We only had a 40-minute time spent on this call. So thank you guys so much for coming. and I don't want you to just cut us off. I really just want to end this, right? So thank you guys so much. I have recorded. I will let you guys know when the recording will be available and where you can get it. So thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you for the questions. The next Zoom call